From the Frank Beck Chevrolet Studio Annex, this is Time Out Overtime on the Time Out Overtime YouTube channel. I'm your host, Rick Arsenal, and do me a favor if you would, please, before we go any further, get down there in the corner if you haven't done so yet, smash that like and subscribe button. This will be about a 15-minute show today. I'm going to end it. Our friends at Pro Football Focus have come out with their list ranking the top defensive line units in the National Football League, 1 through 32. We'll tell you where the Tigers come in on that list, what they had to say about them. So let's get started. Time Out Overtime is sponsored in part by Frank Beck Chevrolet and M99 between Hillsdale and Jonesville. If it's time for a new-to-you vehicle, let the sales pros at Beck's help you choose the right vehicle. New or pre-owned, Beck's has the top selection in the tri-state area with over 200 vehicles in stock. Stop by and see for yourself, and when you're ready, ask for Russ McMorty, Chris Hodis, Danny Smith, Adam Schaefer, Blake Bryant, Cameron Mincio, Bob Flynn, or Peyton Lucas. And when it comes time to service that new-to-you vehicle, the service pros at Beck's can fix it. Any make, any model, Ford or domestic, Beck's can fix it. And if you have a bit of a crunch or fender bender, Beck's Body Shop can put it back together just as good as new. So for all your automotive needs, look no further than Frank Beck Chevrolet on M99 between Hillsdale and Jonesville, 517-849-2886, or on the web at frankbeckchevy.com. Come and experience the Frank Beck difference. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Okay. I think we mentioned something about this before we get into hockey. The Tigers lost again last night out in Anaheim. They've got 8 games left on this road trip yet. 2 left in Anaheim. I think 3 in Minnesota and 3 more in Cincinnati. Look, since going 18-13, the Tigers have gone 19-32. Okay, they're currently 37-45. They're sinking fast. They're taking on water. Jack Flaherty got hit hard the other night. Is it his back? He had seemed to be the same. He has not been the same pitcher since he had the back issue. I think Scott Harris waited too long to trade him. You put him out there now prior to the trade deadline. I don't think you're going to get much for him. The one trump card you do have to play, of course, is that of Terry Skubal. I think you should, since given what he has said publicly, Dan Dickerson and Jason Benetti do a podcast. He was on their podcast. They adjust the camera a little bit there. Yeah, he was on their podcast last week and said they're not ready to win for 3 or 4 years yet. Well, he's been here, almost 2 right now. Okay. But having said that, there's no need to hang on to Tarek Skubal. Whoever gets him has control of him for 2 years yet. He can't declare for free agency until after the 2026 season. There's no point in the Tigers hanging on to him. They're not going to be winning. He might be a successful pitcher, but there's no way, especially since Scott Boras is his agent, there is no way that Chris Ilitch is going to give him a lucrative long-term deal. You got to do that for anybody. This guy's just the opposite of his father. He's got to be the cheapest owner in Major League Baseball. Too bad he just doesn't sell the team. Sell them and the Red Wings, and because obviously he's not interested in winning. I don't know what motivates this man or what his motive is, but nothing like his father. Anyway, Tigers, as I said, are 37-45. I don't even know. Well, who's pitching tonight? Reese Olson. Anybody going to stay up late tonight after midnight and watch this crap? They scored 2 runs last night. They had 2 hits the whole game. Apparently, the 2 runs they scored came on bases loaded walks. It's a mess. I don't know what this thing is that they have about. They want players to be able to play several different positions. You're in the outfield one night, infield the next. You don't know where you're going to be batting in the lineup. Players playing out of position. They don't have any major league talent except for maybe 1 or 2 players. That's one issue. The other one is, and I blame the manager and his coaching staff for this, their fundamentals are awful. It's one thing to not have any talent, but errors. This team is very bad defensively, very bad team. And as I said before, outfielders overthrowing cutoff men, base running blunders, infielders out of position, basic fundamentals. The ABCs of baseball, this team is not very good at. And that's on the manager and the coaching staff. Yeah, and if you ask me, Jim Costa, if AJ Hinch is doing a good job, I'll tell you, no, he's not. Mr. Stanford, man, AJ Hinch, yeah. I don't know, I've lost a lot of respect for him as a manager, I'll tell you. And anyway, the future does not look bright for the Detroit Tigers. I'm sorry to have to tell you that, but it just doesn't. So I have no interest, as I told you before, I have no interest in watching this team. The only reason I monitor them to see what they're doing is I'm doing this podcast. I do this Saturday morning show with Andy. So I have to be able to talk about them. So I have to know what's going on, keep up with the latest developments. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't. I certainly don't watch them. I wouldn't even listen to hear what they're doing or monitor their progress, anything like that. It doesn't matter who they bring up from Toledo either. I don't care who they can bring up. Because whoever they are, and once they get up here, they're not going to do anything. It's a mess. From them, we go to the Pistons. All I'm going to tell you about them is they don't have a coach yet. Who knows if they'll ever have a head coach. They did hire a shooting coach from New Orleans. The shooting coach is going to teach a kid to shoot that can't shoot. What's he supposed to do now? Ron Holland, the second, 23% three-point shooter in the G League. This new coach, Vincent, what's he going to do? Turn them into an overnight shooting sensation? I doubt it. I don't think so. Pardon me. I got to take a swig of water here. Just a second. That's better. That's about all we're going to say about the Pistons right now. That they don't have a coach. They're done with the draft. And now, like I said, I doubt if they will have a coach in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure the next time we meet here, they won't have one in place. So, as far as the Red Wings go, and the rest of the National Hockey League, Monday is obviously a very busy day. Monday is the day that the free agency starts. And that is the day that the Wings especially are expected to be busy that day. Of course, the name that keeps coming up is the Tampa Bay Lightning captain, Steven Stamkos. Right now, I'd say it's probably 60-40 that Steven Stamkos is a Red Wing sometime next week. Let's hope. Now, he's 34 years old, but what would be a reasonable deal for Steven Stamkos if I was Steve Yzerman? I'd say 4 years for maybe $25 million. 4 years at $25 million. That's a little more than $6 million a year. I think that's very fair for a guy his age. Let's hope they can make it happen. I'd like to see both Patrick Kane and Steven Stamkos here next year. As I said this morning on the show, I think combined those two would be good for anywhere from 50 to 60 goals next year. I'd like to see him go out and bring in another goalie. I don't know if that's going to happen. And then came this report out of the New York Post. But before we do, if you haven't heard by now, the Wings yesterday with the 15th pick in the draft selected Michael Brandtsik-Nygaard, the right winger out of Norway, 6'1", 210 pounds, shoots right, as I said, 15th overall pick. He's got good size. Pardon me, 6'1", goes about 210. He'll be 19 in October. Michael Brandtsik-Nygaard, the newest Red Wing. Again, I think it was Nick Lidstrom who made the announcement on this pick yesterday in the draft. So anyway, welcome to the Red Wings, Mr. Nygaard, Brandtsik-Nygaard, right winger. The draft, of course, is continuing today. I don't know if there's anything significant going on there or not. But this out of another possibility. You know, teams are, as the free agency starts, are looking to dump salary cap or salary money. And did I mention too that the first player taken overall yesterday in the draft by San Jose was Macklin Celebrini, a center out of Boston University. Okay. Anyway, the story came out this morning in the New York yesterday in the New York Post in regard to the Rangers captain and Jacob Trouba, 30-year-old captain of the Rangers, Jacob Trouba. Larry Brooks of the New York Post is reporting that the Rangers general manager Chris Drury is working on a deal to send Trouba to the Red Wings, a trade that the Michigan native would presumably accept after having played his freshman year here in Ann Arbor. That was in the 2012-2013 season. Reportedly, the Rangers would have to retain about $2.5 million of his salary in order to make that deal work. But again, it's a salary dump. Just like the Mavericks trading Hardaway to the Pistons. The salary cap dump. That's not an earth-shattering move. I think Hardaway will get more playing time here than he did there, would have gotten there. All right, player. I mean, he's... I don't. That's a less than stellar move on the part of the Pistons. But anyway, Tim Hardaway is a Piston. I guess I forgot to mention that. It was such a under the radar move. I had almost forgotten about it. But if you hadn't heard, Hardaway's a Piston. Trouba. So there's a possibility. Come Monday, New York Ranger defenseman Jacob Trouba could very well be a Red Wing. I don't know if I'd be all excited about that move either. The guy's 30 years old. Again, there was his attempt on the part of the Rangers to dump salary cap money. Okay, we'll make give you a quick word here for Quality PC before we get into this PFF defensive line ranking. Tim Lindley, as you know, at Quality PC, the man solely responsible for helping me put this whole thing together at 37 Waldron Street in downtown Hillsdale, about 200 feet west of Waldron. Pardon me, you won't find a better tech knowledge man, tech-savvy man in our area. He and his assistant, Zach. First of all, they're two of the nicest people I may have ever met, but their tech knowledge is, it's the best. Anything. Computers, new or used. Maybe the computer you have now needs some work done on it. Flat screen TVs, mounting, programming, internet installation, printers, new or used, you name it, anything. Tim Lindley, Quality PC, downtown Hillsdale, 517-610-5372, or better still, get in there and see him at 37 Waldron Street. And when you do, tell him Rick sent you. Thank you. The good people at Pro Football Focus have ranked the 32 defensive lines of the National Football League, top to bottom. And the number one ranked team are the New York Jets. It doesn't surprise me. Here's what they had to say about the Jets. The Jets have a fearsome defensive line, even with a couple of off-season departures in the form of John Franklin Myers and Bryce Huff. Those were offset at least in part by acquiring Hassan Reddick and could be entirely eclipsed if Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald IV take steps forward. Quentin Williams is one of the best, most disruptive defensive linemen in the game. I think he is the best defensive lineman in the game, making the Jets as good as it gets on the defensive line. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Second ranked, they've got the 49ers. I can agree with that. They've got the Eagles with the third best defensive line in the NFL. I question that. Anyway, I'm not going to. I don't have time to read every critique they have of all these teams. But coming in at number four, the fourth ranked defensive line in all the National Football League. Yes, Pro Football Focus has our Detroit Lions. Now, number four in all of football. And here's what they had to say about it. For a while, the Lions had Aiden Hutchinson and not much else along the defensive line. Now they have DJ Reader, or will deploy DJ Reader, and an improved Lee McNeil along with Marcus Davenport on his latest Prove It deal. This is unquestionably the best group the Lions have had around Hutchinson, who himself racked up 101 quarterback pressures last season on his way to a 91.2 PFF pass rush grade. You surprised? Yeah, I was when I initially saw this, but they take a lot of the moves that the Lions made up front this season. To round out the top 10, the Cleveland Browns are fifth. The Dallas Cowboys came in sixth. Indianapolis Colts 7. Pittsburgh Steelers 8. Las Vegas Raiders at 9. And the Houston Texans come in at number 10, rounding out the top 10. The Green Bay Packers, if you're interested, came in at 11. If I can get the rest of the NFC North division up for you here. Hang on. New York Giants down there at 18. Commanders at 19. Bear with me here, folks. I'm trying to get all that as we get down toward the bottom. Obviously, the Vikings and Bears are down, and the Bears are ranked the 27th best defensive line by Pro Football Focus. It says the Chicago's defensive line improved massively last year with the addition of Montez Sweat, who provided a real consistent source of pressure after the team traded for him at the deadline last year. Sweat tallied 64 quarterback pressures last season, but the Bears' defensive line will be determined by the growth of year two of their defensive tackles, Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens. Dexter flashed playmaking ability as a rookie, but the Bears need more from him in 2024. Coming in at 30, second next to last, they've got the Minnesota Vikings, who took a hit last year, losing Danielle Hunter to Houston. Says the Vikings' off-season free agency swap of Danielle Hunter for Jonathan Greenard was likely a downgrade, even if they got younger and cheaper in the process. Andrew Van Ginkel earned a 91.1 PFF grade overall last season, but was a massive outlier in a career that has typically seen him post grades in the 60s and 70s. Rookie Dallas Turner will have high expectations, but the interior of the line is a definite weakness. That's what they had to say about the Minnesota Vikings. That's about all before I lose my voice. Miggy, we got to go. You got anything more you want to say, pal? I think he does not. Before I lose my voice here, we got to get out of here. And yeah. So Saturday, yeah, don't forget we've got the Time Out with Andy Brown show next Saturday from 9 to 10. I will not be here next Saturday. I'll be out of town. Andy and Jed, Zoom will be there. You can listen to them from 9 to 10 on WCSR 92.1 FM. And until I talk to you again on Tuesday, have a very good rest of your weekend, everybody. Remember, treat each other with respect and have a good evening. Bye-bye.